Hi, this is Jason Bomar with LA Networks. I'm the principal engineer here. We're a Cisco Gold partner in the Los Angeles area, and we're doing this series of ACI for network engineers videos. Today we're going to be covering a topic that's going to be critical, of course, and that's code upgrades. It is going to be a little bit different than code upgrades you've done before in like NXOS or iOS. It is going to be a few more steps, but it's not too painful. We do need to set up some groups, and we need to talk through the procedure and the methodology. And with that said, let's go ahead and get on the APIC console and get started.
Okay, we're going to take a look at firmware upgrades today. I'll warn you up front, I cannot actually do a firmware upgrade on this gear. This is a shared lab environment, and it's a virtual simulator of ACI. So we're going to walk through the procedure, but I cannot actually execute on it. So a few housekeeping items first. One is when you're doing upgrades, you want to be sure that you research first what your upgrade path is. If it's a minor upgrade, if I'm going from, 211H to 211G, it's probably just going to be go ahead and do the upgrade. If I'm going from 1.0 to 2.11H, that's going to be a stepped upgrade. The rule of thumb is not to jump major versions. That being said, sometimes you can, and it's just something you have to research. Sadly, it's sometimes in the release notes what the path is and sometimes not. But fear not, if you just Google for, Cisco ACI upgrade path, you will find they have a couple of documents out there that are very good, and you can find out what my starting version is, what my ending version is, and what my path is to get there. So I just want to point that out. The second thing I want to point out is that the switches and spines actually run a unified image. It doesn't matter what kind of spine or leaf you have. It could be a 9372 or a 93180 or 9396 on the leaf, or it could be a 9336 or a 9508 on the spine. It doesn't matter. They all run one image. There's one image for the spine and the leaf. Okay? And then there's a second image for the controller. The spine leaf image is large, probably in the 400 to 600 megs area, and the APIC image is even larger. It's in the gigabit range. You're going to have a fairly large image for that. So, probably 4 to 6 gigabits. So when you have those images downloaded, it's very easy to get them up to the APIC. The most common way is to right-click on Download Tasks, upload firmware to APIC, you browse to your directory, and you submit. Once you submit, you need to wait a few minutes, probably 5 to 10 minutes, for it to distribute across the controllers so that they can all have a copy of the image. You can tell where the image is at. Up here under the catalog. Now again, on my lab, I don't have that option, but normally it would tell you if it's been distributed at this time or not, and where it's at. You can run out of sync between your controllers and your switches, and even within the switches, you can run out of sync on, say, Group A and Group B. Usually we separate those odds and evens. And I typically do the controllers first. And if you come into controller firmware, and I do a controller upgrade, right? Now, again, I don't have an image, but if I selected it here, be aware that under this apply policy, I have upgrade later, upgrade now. If you click upgrade now, the second I hit submit, it's going to start the upgrade. It is giving you a warning too. It's telling you in this case the fabric has 9 critical faults and 4 major faults. And it's recommending that before you do the upgrade, you go resolve these. Now, if you're unsure, you should contact Cisco TAC. They can take a look at what those actual faults are and help you determine if there's going to be an issue during the upgrade or not. And usually they want them resolved, but sometimes a fault cannot easily be resolved before the upgrade, and it may have actually zero real impact on the upgrade, but it will give you that warning. Okay, so in the more recent ACI versions, at least 2.0 and 2.1, these upgrades are done in parallel, meaning as soon as I click upgrade now, all three Apex start upgrading in real time and they start rebooting. This sounds horrid. It's not as bad as you might think. Effectively, what happens is you're going to lose the ability to manage or troubleshoot for probably 10 minutes or so while the Apex are all reloading and resynchronizing. But it won't, the Apex are not involved in forwarding of traffic. So assuming your fabric is working sufficiently before the upgrade, you're only going to lose management and visibility for about 10 minutes or so during the upgrade. My understanding is, and this was certainly true in the past, they're bringing back the option to do a serial upgrade, upgrade APIC 1, then upgrade APIC 2, then upgrade APIC 3. That's a Band-Aid off slow versus a Band-Aid off fast. Ultimately, I just feel you should have the option. If your maintenance windows are very hard to get, you may want to do, Band-Aid off quickly, right? I wouldn't want, if I'm only allowed a maintenance every other month or something, I wouldn't want to take 6 months to upgrade my 3 Apex. I'd rather just take that one window and upgrade them all, right? Likewise, if you have a weekly maintenance and so you want to do the first one and let it bake in, and if that works, then do the next two, that would be the best of both worlds, right? Is to give you the control. But right now, just be aware 2021, I think it's going to just automatically do a kind of parallel upgrade. It sure did the last time I went through one of these. So once my firmware is up there and now I've done my controller, then if we come into Fabric Node firmware, we'll see that we have this concept of firmware groups and maintenance groups. The firmware groups are the target firmware version I want for any particular group. And we typically make both of these groups based off of odd and even. And if you come down here, you can see I've already done that. I've created an odd and even switches maintenance group, right? The maintenance group is where I'm going to perform my maintenance. I'm going to perform it on, the even switches or the odd switches. The firmware groups are going to be what version of code I want to run on the even or the odd switches. And that's why both groups tend to go even odd. You could break out spines versus leaves, so odd spine, odd leaf, even spine, even leaf. But I tend to just see more commonly all the spines and leaves in an odd or an even group. And I see it most commonly that refers to that node ID number, right, that we set up during the fabric discovery. So once I've created my firmware groups, I've said what that target firmware version is, right? Again, I can't create a target firmware group or firmware version on my simulator, but if I did, then I would come down here and let's say it's the maintenance window for my even switches. I would just right click under my maintenance group and do an upgrade now. Now there is no concept of ISSU in ACI. The assumption is everything is dual connected. This means if something in your data center is not dual connected, it will take a hit during the maintenance. Okay, so any orphan ports you have, you probably want to know about up front. And certainly, and I'm sure this is the case for you in NXOS as well, we do everything we can to avoid orphan ports. But I'm also quite aware that sometimes that's just outside of our purview. Now, usually in most of the accounts I work with, when you have a device that's attached to the network on just a single link, usually we do tell people, even if I have ISSU, we do tell people, hey, we recommend 2 links. And if you're going to run 1 link, if anything happens to that link for any reason, your system is going to go down. And that's just kind of how it works. And usually they're like, yeah, this is not critical and it just isn't supported, you know, whatever. So just be aware of that, right? But once I've created my firmware groups, I've already upgraded my controllers. I create my firmware group for odd and even. I come down my maintenance group for odd and even. I right click, I do upgrade now, and sure enough, it's going to start upgrading these. It takes about 20 minutes or so, give or take, to get your switches done. They're all going to upgrade. Any switch in that group is going to upgrade all at once. Now, keep in mind, most people do odd and even. You don't have to do odd and even. If your data center was built into pods and you wanted to do it based on pods and then at the end come back and do the spines, which interconnect all the pods, you could just as easily do that, right? This is just what I see most commonly, okay? So you'll need to figure out what works best for you. As always, if you have any comments or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Please let me know. Thanks and have a great day.